Welcome back to Dry Hollow Homestead. This is Danielle, and we have made corned beef. We use the brisket for this. I'm actually going to put in this video us making the brine. So corned beef is brisket that you brine for 10 days, a little bit more if you'd like. We actually went about 14 days, about 2 weeks today, because it just didn't work out. We all had a stomach bug over the weekend, so we didn't make it. So I will put in how we make the brine right here. Okay, so we're going to start with 1 gallon of water, and I'm putting this in my 6.5 quart Dutch oven, my Dutch oven. And also our next step is to put 1 cup of kosher salt in this, and that's what it looks like there. And then I'm actually going to use half a cup of brown sugar. Is what the recipe calls for. I actually use turpentino sugar. It's really dark and brown, so that works fine. I buy this pickling spice that I use for this at a local Mennonite store. A 1/3 cup of that pickling spice. And then I use 2 teaspoons of pink curing salt is what we're supposed to use. I couldn't find that. This is salt petre. And that is what I'm told is the same thing as curing salt. So I use 2 teaspoons of that curing salt. And then we are going to put that in there, mix it together. And also, 4 cloves of garlic. So this is actually more of our homegrown garlic that we're using up. I always use this Pampered Chef press. That makes it pretty handy. And then we're going to put this on the stove just long enough, heat it long enough to dissolve the sugars and the salts, just to get it combined well. And then you do want to make sure that it cools before you start brining your meat. And I want to take this time just to say thank you for coming by and supporting my channel. If you ever find value or in any of these, please subscribe, share with people that you think might enjoy these types of videos. That would be helpful. So I finally get this up to just dissolved. I didn't even bring it to a boil or anything. I just warmed it enough that everything dissolved, let it cool for a little bit. And then this is my brisket. So we have our cow butchered, at least 1 cow every year, usually 1 cow every year. And my knife is kind of dull. I'm sorry. It took way longer than I needed to be. I cut it in half just so it could fit down in my brining solution. And make sure it's submerged. We're going to place our meat in that. I might, looking back, might have needed to trim some of the fat. It was an extremely fatty brisket, which we love fat, but I don't know, sometimes it's a little overkill. That might have been so, but too late now. It's delicious anyway. And then you want it to be submerged. You want your meat to be submerged under that. So I actually have fermentation weights that I use in my glass mason jars, and I'm actually going to set some of those on top of this brisket just to get it down below the surface of the brine. And that is going to keep it down low enough that we don't have to worry about any parts sticking out of the top. And then we are going to let that brine in the fridge covered. After your brisket has brined for 10 days or so, I actually had weights on top of this so it would stay down in it. We're actually going to rinse our brisket off, and then we are going to actually start the cooking of the corned beef. This is traditionally made around St.Patricks Day here in the United States, but this is delicious. So I thought I'd get this out here a little bit early before St. Patrick's Day. That way you can be starting a brisket like this if you have them in the freezer. So we buy a whole cow at a time, so we always get 2 briskets. And brisket can be a little bit of a tricky thing to cook. So this is the best way we have found to use this, and it is delicious. So I'm actually going to rinse off my brisket, and then we will start assembling everything on the stove. So here is our brisket that has been in the brine for about 14 days for me. You don't have to do it quite that long. 10 days is best. So it definitely, it smells wonderful. If you have never tried corned beef, I suggest it. The first time we had tried corned beef homemade was actually from a Costco kit that you could buy and you did in the Instapot, and it was absolutely delicious. And so we went on a search through all of our cookbooks to try to find a recipe for actually making corned beef, because we do have the brisket, at least 2 of them, well no, just always 2 of them, every time we have a cow butchered, and we're not, we don't really have a smoker right now, we don't have a grill that we really enjoy, we don't have a space for that. So we don't have an outdoor way of doing that, so this is one of the best ways we've come up with to use that. So we had that brining for 10 days or longer, just a few days longer. We are going to add some carrots. We rinsed it. We're doing it in my Dutch oven, and this was a huge mistake I made. You need to keep it in the fridge while you're brining it. I put it in my Dutch oven because it will fit a gallon of brine. And then I didn't have my Dutch oven for weeks, and it was awful. We're just going to quarter some green cabbage. I just took 1 green cabbage and quartered it. I took 3 carrots and cut them up. 1 potato. This is just all I'm going to be able to fit in my Dutch oven. This is 6.5 quart Dutch oven. And my brisket was between 4 and 5 pounds. I'm not 100% sure. And then we're going to add, oh Lord have mercy, I just spilled some all over the place. We're adding beef broth. I'm actually going to have to go get more. So you need about 4 cups of beef broth. Okay, so I'm going to add a little more of my bone broth. It's actually chicken broth, so that should be about right. And then I'm going to use about, this is pickling spice. I'm going to use about a tablespoon, which would probably be about 2 or 3 of these. And the next step is to actually get this to a boil. I normally do this in my Dutch oven, so you completely skip the boiling part and you just cook it in the Instapot. I don't usually do it in my Dutch oven, but since it's already out, and by the way, my Instapot completely pooped out on me. So this is my first time making it and actually using my Dutch oven for this. You bring all these ingredients to a boil, and I'll show you when we get there, and then we're going to cover it, which doesn't really matter, and reduce the heat, and then we're going to let that cook on the stove in the Dutch oven for 3.5 to 4 hours. Right now it's 2:30, so it's going to be a late dinner tonight. But I would have stuck more veggies in here with this brisket if I had a bigger Dutch oven, but this is my biggest Dutch oven that I have. But like I said, you can also do this in the Instapot, which my Instapot was a 6 quart, so I would have not had much more room either. But we're going to get this started and see what the children need. Okay, here is our boiling Dutch oven. I see that it is starting to boil, and it is really beautiful outside. It's in the 70s. Today's February 15th. So I am going to turn this on low. I'm going to go about, this is how my stove works. It's up on high right now, up on 8. I'm going to put it in about 2. And then I'm going to let this go. Cook down. These veggies will all soften up and spread out. And it'll be delicious. And I will definitely show you the end product. The end product will definitely convince you to make this also. Okay, let's see what it's looking like. It is done. It is 6:38. You saw what time we started it. I am going to pull some out, shred it up. Thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me. God bless.